Hey network, how are you doing today? Sony announced on Tuesday their new DualSense controller. Well, a lot of people are wondering why they call it DualSense. Well, in this video, I will be explaining exactly that. Before we get into this video, hit the subscribe button and the like button if you want to see more PlayStation and Avengers content. Let's get into this video. So in order for me to explain to you the naming scheme of this controller, I have to explain the past naming scheme of the old controllers. Yes, Sony has named this controller different names before. Sony normally names the controllers with features that can market pretty well. The first controller that they named was dual analog, and basically it had two analog sticks, and that's why they call it dual analog. That first controller was supposed to have vibration motors in it, but they removed it at the last minute. But then they came out with a second controller in 1997, and that's what they call the Dual Shock. Well, with this controller, it had the two vibration motors in it, and the two is as in dual, and the shock was the shock you get from the vibration motors. That's why they call it that. Well, now we're at DualSense, and Sony has a new feature that they would like to market, and that's haptic feedback. Haptic feedback gives you the sense of feel you're touching or doing something you really aren't doing, like scrolling the mouse, reloading each bullet into a revolver, or even drifting a car. That's why they call it DualSense, because two haptic feedback sensors give you a new way to play with your senses. And this isn't the first time haptic feedback has ever been made. It's been around since like 1987 in the first arcade machines, but it's the first time Sony has used it. It was actually in the most recent controller I can think of was the Steam Link controller just a couple years ago. I have one. I've never used the controller, but I've actually heard a lot about the haptic feedback back then, so I may actually want to use it now because it was pretty cheap recently. That's why I bought it. Hopefully the devs can use this new immersion to the game. There are other tidbits that changed about the controller, and that is the adaptive triggers. So you're gonna have like a haptic feedback inside the triggers. The rechargeable battery is probably gonna be a little bit longer. They actually said they improved the life of the battery, which is kind of cool. A lot of people don't pay attention to details like that. Normally after you charge a battery so many times, it actually degrades in how much power it can consume and stay charged over a period of time. That way the battery is much better over 4 or 5 years when you keep the controller. So that's cool that they actually care. They also said they replaced the share button with a create button. I don't see what's too different about that. Only difference I can see is you're trying to inspire people to create and use the PlayStation Factory to make more video clips. Other than that, it's pretty much the same thing. I don't know why you changed the name of it, but one of the biggest things about this controller, it has a built-in microphone, and I think that is pretty cool. I mean, the only thing I can think about what might be an issue is when you're pressing buttons and moving analog sticks. But if they have a mic that is like a shotgun array, and it just takes in things that go straight into the microphone, so anything on the side doesn't really matter, then that probably is why the microphone probably works very well. I'm pretty sure they focus test this and QA this controller and made sure it worked like it should. So I'm assuming this controller is going to work pretty well with the microphone. I actually can't wait for it. I actually like the design. It grew on me. At first I didn't like it, but now I do like it. But I'm hoping they really do something cool with this new feature. Now tell me what you think about this controller down in the comments down below. But this time, until next time, network, as always, you rule.